Morning. Tuloy natin yung ating pre-recorded lecture sessions on solving equations. At this point, marami-rami na tayong practice sa solving equations. We did synchronous checkup last Thursday and Friday for all my classes. So, ang key naman dito, tandaan, when we are solving equations, the key, as was stated in the previous materials, is to isolate the variable. And to do that, kailangan natin ng tulong ng iba't ibang mga properties of equality. Sama na rin syempre yung mga properties of numbers na inaral natin noong nakaraang term. Huwag natin kakalimutan yun, especially when we are required to justify our solving steps. Okay? Let's proceed. In the previous examples, kung napansin ninyo, lahat ng equations natin ay nasa isang side pa lang ng equation may makikitang variable or variable terms. Of course, hindi naman limitado sa ganun lang yung itsura ng mga equations. Some equations have variable terms on both sides of the equation, like this one that you see, 6x plus 7 equals 13 plus 7x. No? But again, the idea is to be able to isolate the variable. But in this case, since isolating the variable might look differently because there appears to be 6x on the left side and a 7x on the right. So baka tanongin yung sarili niyo yan. O tanongin niyo, sir, kung i-isolate natin yung variable, saan natin siya dapat i-isolate? Dapat ba ang itsura ng final line ko ng solving ay x equals something wherein the variable seems to be left on the left side, isolated on the left side, or blank equals x, something equals x. Now, if you might remember, one of the properties of equality, yung symmetric property of equality. Tandaan natin na if x is equal to y, then I can conclude that y is equal to x. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us that whether I decide to isolate the variables on the left side or on the right side, it doesn't matter. Kasi by the symmetric property, pareho lang naman yon. Granting, again, tulad na Paul tulad natin sinasabi, granting tama yung math. Okay? Now, I guess when you're dealing with an equation, solving an equation that contains variable terms on both sides of the equation, siguro isang choice na kailangan mo munang gawin at the beginning is maybe decide at the beginning na where would I like my variable to end up, on the left side or on the right side. That would matter in terms of what terms need to be eliminated from which sides. But rest assured that whichever choice you make, whether you decide to leave and isolate your variable on the left or on the right, again, as long as your math is correct, hindi magmamatter yon. Okay? Kasi pwede mo namang gamitin sa huli yung symmetric property. If you end up with something like blank equals x, whatever equals x, you can always justify flipping the equation by switching the left and the right side. The left becomes the right becomes the left, and justify that by using the symmetric property. Okay lang. So in this case, what if I decide that x would end up, I would isolate it on the right side, halimbawa. Pero yung mabuti to if I would like to isolate the variable on the right-hand side of the equation, let's examine each of the terms here in this equation because there are 4 terms here. 6x, 7, 13, and 7x. Because of the choice that I made, let's say again, I'd like my variable to end up on the right side. What does that mean? Dapat ang ina-expect ko ay blank equals x. And blank, whatever should be on that blank, is most likely a real number. Granting that there is a real number solution here. And then equals x. And because of that, since I want, sabi ko nga, a real number, if there is a real solution, on the left side of the equation, we can now examine deeper into what should happen with our 4 terms. Now, what does that mean? Because I want the x to end up on the right side, si 6x ngayon dito sa kaliwa, this needs to go. Diba? Kailangan maalis niyan. Kasi dapat, gusto ko, ang variable term ko mag-end up sa right side. So the 6x on the left, I'd like to eliminate that. On the other hand, si 7 dito, si plus 7, that can stay where it is. Okay na siya dyan. No? Kasi nga, gusto kong mangyari, blank equals x, wherein the blank on the left side will be filled with a real number, if there is one, a real number solution. No? So the plus 7 here on the left is good where it is already. Now, the 13 on the right-hand side, ito, kailangan ko tanggalin. Kasi gusto ko ma-isolate nga yung x sa right side. Which in turn makes positive 7x here. Okay na rin ako dyan. Masaya na ako sa pwesto niya sa ngayon. Okay? So, yun yung tiny decision that you'll have to make at the beginning of the solving. Again, it doesn't matter which side you choose, whether it's the left or the right, as long as you do the math right, you should still get the same root or solution to the equation, granting that there is one. Kasi alam natin, di ba, there are three types of equations. Identities, contradictions, and we call this conditionals. Hindi lahat ng equations mo ay may solutions, may real number solutions. Okay? So, granting our examination is correct, no? Anong gagawin natin ngayon? So, tanggalin na natin yung mga unwanted terms. Sino rito yung unwanted given our decision to isolate the variable on the right? Unwanted ko si 6x, unwanted ko si 13. So, my first step probably would be to add the opposite of 6x to both sides of the equation. 6x. And again, that's guaranteed by APE. And what happens after that? 6x and negative 6x on the left add up to 0, leaving me with 7 on the left. And then you have your 13 plus 7x plus negative 6x leaves me with plus x. Diba? Now the 13, remember, sabi natin kanina, no? We need to eliminate that. And it makes sense because once we're able to eliminate the 13 from the right side, note that x will finally be isolated. And how do I do that? I can add negative 13 to both sides of the equation. That cancels out the positive 13 on the right, leaving me with just x on the right. And I have a 7 minus 13 or negative 13 plus 7 on the left, negative 6. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, no? If you chose the right side of the equation to be where your variable ends up, you might feel uncomfortable writing your equation like this. Negative 6 equals x. Sanay ako, sir, x equals something eh. No problem. You can always justify flipping your equation to write it instead as x equals negative 6 using the symmetric property of equality. Tama? So, x is equal to negative 6. Yeah? So, again, even though there are now variables and variable terms on both sides of the equation, the properties that we use to isolate the variable, wherever we choose it to end up, they are the same. They apply the same way. Okay? So, huwag kayo matatakot na dumadami na yung mga variable terms. No problem. Pareho lang yan. Right? Next one. I have here 13 minus 4x equals 1 minus x. Again, we make the choice. Left or right? Bala kayo. Again, try natin sa left naman. Now, if I want my variable to end up on the left, what does that mean for 13? 13 needs to go. The 4x, the negative 4x, okay na ako dyan sa ngayon, sa pwesto niya. The 1 on the right side, eto masaya na ako dyan sa pwesto niya. But the negative x here must go. Dahil gusto ko lahat ng variables ko ay nasa left side, no? If that is the decision that you make. So, because of that, we need to remove the 13 and the negative x. Let's remove the 13 first. I add negative 13 to both sides of the equation, negative 13. That cancels out its pair 13 on the left, leaving me with negative 4x on the left. And then you have your 1 plus negative 13, that's a negative 12 minus x. Okay? Now, again, gusto natin tanggalin, halimbawa, gusto natin mag-end up yung x sa kaliwa. Ibig sabihin, misplaced sa ngayon itong negative x na term. So, how do we remove that? term pa rin naman si negative x. So to get rid of that, I add its opposite x to both sides of the equation. No? That cancels out the minus x on the right, leaving me with just minus 12 on that side and a minus 3x on the left. Okay? Now, finally, again, I need to isolate my x. I still have a multiplier, negative 3, to get rid of. So, again, one of two things. You can verbalize it in one of two ways, CMPE. I mean, you can either multiply both sides of the equation by negative 1/3. That's one option. No? Multiply both sides of the equation by negative 1/3. Or, pwede rin naman, same effect by the definition of the opposite of a number. You can divide both sides by negative 3. Okay? So that cancels out on the left. You have x equals 4. Again, you can try if you want. Choose the right side to be where your variable ends up. You should still get the same solution. 4. Dapat. Okay? Right. Uh-huh. Next, you have here 4 times the quantity x minus 1 equals 6x minus 2 times the quantity x plus 2. Okay? Now again, mag-a-apply tayo rito ng mga properties of numbers na tutunan natin from last term. I see multiple grouping symbols. I can try and get rid of those first by applying the distributive property of multiplication over addition. DPMA ka muna. So on the next line, I have 4x. Ito, distribute ha. Naalala yan. 4x minus 4 equals 6x. And then you have a multiplier of negative 2. That's a minus 2x. And then a minus 4. Okay? Then what? Yung right side, meron tayong pwede combine dyan. 4x minus 4 is equal to 6x minus 2x is a 4x. And then you have your minus 4. A pause. Tignan nito 4x minus 4 equals 4x minus 4. Anong klaseng equation nga yan ulit? Naalala nyo ba? From the introductory PowerPoint that was assigned. What kind of an equation is this? Correct. Ang tawag natin dito ay identity. Note that we have an identity if the left side and the right side are exactly the same. What does that mean for our equation? Kahit anong value ang isubstitute natin for x, any real number, our equation will always be true. Diba? So, kung ang tanong ngayon, diba, tandaan, solution ang hinahanap natin dito eh. What value or values will make my equation true? But, since any real number will make my equation true, then, ang solution set ko, ay all real numbers. Diba? Yung symbol natin for all real numbers, I call that from the first term. So, all real numbers ang solution. You can also write it in set notation if you want. X is an element of all real numbers. Okay? Pwedeng ganyan ang sagot, no? Hindi sa lahat ng pagkakataon, isang value lang, isang number lang ang ating solution. Okay? Next. Again, we do what we did in the previous item and try to remove the grouping symbols first. I apply DPMA on the left. I get 35x minus 28 minus, minus 1 pa pala. Minus 1 equals 25 minus 8x. Okay? Combine natin kung sino pwede. We have a 35x here. Tama naman yung aking math so far. Yeah, tama. 28, that's a minus 29 equals 25 minus 8x. Okay? So, nalinis na siyang konti. But now again, we see, may variable terms ako on both sides. So, you can make the decision, saan ko gusto kayang ilagay ang aking mga, ang mag-end up ang aking variable na x at the end of the solution. No? Again, whatever it is, no problem. Let's say we decide to leave it on the left. If we decide that way, that would mean I need to get rid of the minus 29 from the left side, and I also need to get rid of ito, si negative 8x from the right side. Okay? Left side pala yung si negative 29. Okay, so let's remove the minus 29 and then minus 8x by applying properties. No? APE mainly. So, Tanggalin natin si minus 29. What do? I add 29 to both sides of the equation. 29. Tanggal yan dito sa kaliwa. Leaving me with 35x equals, then you have your 25 plus 29. Ilan to? 54? 54. No? Minus 8x. Okay? Then what? Let's get rid of the minus 8x from the right side. How do I do that? I add 8x to both sides of the equation. 8x. Okay? 8x. So what happens? 8x and minus 8x on the right cancel each other out, leaving me with 54 on the right. And 35 plus 8 is 43x on the left. Now finally, let's get rid of the 43. I can divide both sides by 43. 43. Leaving me with x equals, ang 43 is prime, so I don't think there are any common factors between 54 and 43 besides 1. So that would mean that my final answer is 54 over 43. Again, wag mag-alala, no? Kung confident ka at mukhang tama naman yung ginawa mong math, hindi sa lahat ng pagkakataon integer ang sagot natin. Okay lang yan. So it's 54 over 43. Okay? One more example. Here you go. I have 8x plus 4 times the quantity 4x minus 3 equals 4 times the quantity 6x plus 4 minus 4. DPMA muna tayo. Let's clean up our equation a bit. So 4, distribute natin by multiplication. Same here for the 4 on the right side. And then we combine what we can. So on the next line, I should have 8x plus 16x minus 12. Okay na yun. Equals 24x. And then you have your plus 16 and then minus 4. Okay, let's combine terms that we can from the left and from the right. 8x and 16x, that gives me 24x minus 12 equals 24x and then 24x plus 12. Okay? Now again, pause. Tingnan mabuti itong ating equation. Parang medyo magkamukha, sir. 24x minus 12 equals 24x plus 12. Yung pag-isipan to mabuti, i-box natin itong, kasi parang may parehong 24x. 24x. 24x translated is 24 times a number, which makes it a number. No, si 24x is a number, whatever that is. It's 24 times a certain number, x. But 24x in itself is a number. So think about this. If we think about 24x as a number, meron ka bang naiisip na number na pag ni-reduce mo ng 12, ang lalabas na sagot ay kapareho lang din kapag yung number na yun ay in-increase mo by 12? Is there such a real number? The answer is wala. Walang ganun. Walang number na pag binawasan mo ng 12, pareho lang kapag dinagdagan mo ng 12. Walang ganun. So in effect, our equation, recall, is what we refer to as a contradiction. No? For any real number that I plug in for x, my equation will always be false. Hindi magiging totoo yan. No? Kahit anong isalpak mo na value for x, my equation will never be true. In fact, you can take it one step further. Let's say you'd like to eliminate the 24x on the right side. See what happens. I add my minus 24x. Oops, minus 24x, minus 24x left and right. What happens? Tanggal siya sa kanan, pero tanggal din siya sa kaliwa. Ano maiwan sa'yo? Negative 12 equals 12. No? Which is wrong. No, we know, of course, that negative 12 and 12 are two different numbers. They're not equal. Which makes, again, our equation a contradiction, which means, sir, ano sagot ko dyan pag ganyan? Ano solution mo? Simple lang. Ang sagot natin dito, no real solutions. Wala. Pwede namang wala eh. Okay? Walang real number solutions ang ibig sabihin dyan. No real solutions. Baka nagtataka kayo, sir, no real solutions. So, ibig sabihin, may non-real numbers, non-real solutions. Yes, meron. Hintayin nyo sa grade 10. Matututunan nyo sa grade 10. But for now, we stick with the real numbers. Those we have learned from term 1. Itong mga numbers na to, mga real numbers, we have been learning them since grade 1. No? Ito yung mga fractions mo. Mga fractions, decimal numbers, integers, whole numbers, natural numbers, prime. Lahat yan, mga real numbers. Ano? Okay? So, balikan yung mga solutions kung merong mga questions. Ano? On the next slide, may magfa-flash na 4 questions, if I'm not mistaken. The answers will also be flashed at the same time already, as well as the questions. But the task is to make sure that you do end up with those answers. Okay? I'm talking about these items for practice. Oops. Yan. Okay? Kung ano ka, medyo nawiwirduhan ka, takpan mo muna yung green na nasa kanan. Yung mga solutions. But the idea is, manipulate those equations, solve them, and the task, the goal is to end up with those solutions on the right. So self-checking ang gagawin mo dito. Kasi pag nag-execute ka ng iyong solving steps at hindi mo nakuha yung mga nasa kanan, you did something wrong. Okay, so self-check tayo. Right, so for the first one, your target is to get 6. For the second one, your target is to get -11. For 3, there are no real solutions. Show that algebraically. And for the fourth one, you should end up with x equals 7. Okay? As always, as you're watching this, I am in the call. Hopefully, when you were watching this video, you were also taking down notes. You can always go to the consultation, our main call to ask your questions. Okay? I'll wait for you there if you need any help. Okay, bye-bye.